Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klink. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. And welcome to this week's live Friday episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klink, and I'm excited for today's show because I'm going to be talking about something that I'm kind of passionate about, but it's something that I think a lot of people get confused about. Specifically, I talk a lot about breaking the rules and how when other people zig, I zag, and how when other people zag, I zig, and how I basically ignore a lot of the conventional wisdom. I'm kind of known for going on guru rants, which the people who are joining me live are seeing a shirt that I'm wearing that says Guru Rant. I'm known for doing that because one of the things that really does drive me nuts that we're seeing happening in the online marketing space is that we're hearing so many people talk like what they're teaching is the only way to do something. And it ends up leaving people confused, not knowing what to do, and feeling like they can't possibly keep up. And so I talk about breaking the rules a lot, but there are limits. And here's the thing. I want to talk today about what the limits are. Like, how can you break the rules? What are the rules that you can break? And what are the rules that, you kind of got to follow and you need to do it whether you like it or not? And how do you know the difference? So basically, how do you know when you need to follow some kind of, guidance, conventional wisdom, and when you just say, screw it, I'm going to do it my own way? That's what we're talking about today. And I want to talk to you about that because it is something I'm passionate about. Now, I'm going to get to that in a second, but before I do want to invite you to join me for Massive Action May. Inside my Fans First Society, which is my paid membership site, we're doing this fun thing this week. We are going to take massive action going through my coach, James Wedmore's Your First 100 Leads program. We're going to be doing it week by week and really diving in to nail your messaging, to get like your customer journey really dialed in. So, where are people now and where do you need to get them and what's the journey you need to take them on to get them there? Then we're going to go over messaging. We're going to go over how to do these kinds of Facebook Lives. And then we're even going to have some Facebook ads training. And we're bringing in a couple guest experts, including a copywriter, my ads expert. We're doing all of that. And I want to give you access absolutely free. Even though Fans First Society is my paid membership, I'm inviting anyone who wants to participate in to take part. All you got to do, sign up for that first 100 Leads program and then join us in Fans First. You can get all the info by going to bobbyklink.com/take action. bobbyklink.com/take action. It's nothing fancy. It's a Google form that has the details, what you need to do and how you get signed up. And I would love to see you in there because we're going to be moving mountains in people's business. So that's what I'm doing. Now let's get to today's episode. And I'm going to start with a story because this episode was inspired by a conversation that I had with one of my friends. She reached out to me via text message and we were kind of going back and forth with audio messages. And she was talking about, she basically said, something like, Bobby, I love how you're always talking about how you don't follow the rules. You kind of zig when people zag. And so she was taking that to mean that she could kind of like just say, she didn't have to do all the things in marketing. And she was like, I just want to be able to say, here's my stuff, come buy it, and have people do it. And I had to coach her a bit. And I had to say, well, that's great, but it's not going to happen. And it's not because of any specific thing, but I was saying, look, when I say you can break the rules, and when I break the rules, and when I don't do what people tell me to do, there's limits to that. And that is what inspired this episode. But at the same time, the other thing that inspired this episode is kind of a frustration I have of what I see in the online marketing landscape. Because in the online marketing world, I don't know about you, but we hear gurus say something like this over and over and over again. What I teach is the best way to make money online, blah. And they kind of go with that. And they talk about it that, but they might even say, they don't even say it's the only way, but they act like it's the only way. And that messaging, first of all, it's lazy messaging, because we're taught that we need to talk about our product, but not just our product, what we teach. Like in my case, it would be email marketing, my vehicle. That we have to talk about that in a superlative way, about how it is something S. So that's why best comes up. But the reality is that people who are just saying it's the best are being lazy. Because what we actually need to do instead is niche down and really figure out who we're talking to, and then get very specific in our USP. So it's not the best. Maybe it's the quickest way or it's the easiest way for this kind of person, something like that. If we actually niched down, these statements, first of all, become more powerful, but they're also true. But the problem is that because people aren't doing that, we are constantly inundated with messaging from all angles of people telling us that their way is the best way. And it's not only that it's the best way, they basically say, you have to do this. You have to put out weekly content. You have to be on Instagram. You have to do Facebook Lives. You have to do this. You have to have a podcast. You have to have a blog. I don't care what it is. We're hearing all that from all of these different angles. And what's annoying is that so many gurus actually don't say, look, I'm teaching you what has worked for me because I believe it's the best way, but it's not the only way. And because so many of kind of these experts and gurus aren't willing to have that level of credibility and that level of like being open and transparency, it's not credibility, it's transparency, I should say, we often are led to believe that they're basically saying it's the only way. And I know that a lot of people think, well, maybe that makes their messaging cleaner, but it's doing a disservice. And so as a result, I don't know about you, but if you listen to all these people, the list of things that they would say you have to do, the rules of marketing, the conventional wisdom are so long. I mean, you got to put out a piece of content every week. You got to be on Instagram every day. You got to be on Facebook every day. You got to be on LinkedIn. You got to be on TikTok. You got to be on Twitter. You got to be on this. You got to do that. You got to appear on podcasts. You got to appear on stages. And we go on and on. And it's like, you got to have a course. You got to have a membership. You got to launch it this way. And you have to use my exact method. And it can be like so destructive because we feel like we have to. And I honestly feel like so many entrepreneurs who are struggling and have what like this overwhelm, but also a sense of what I would call like entrepreneurial guilt. It's driven by them being told by all these people that there are these rules, and they don't call them rules. They simply say you have to do it. And so in our mind, it becomes rules. And I'm here to tell you, that's just BS. Those things that they're saying you have to do, you don't. But there are some things that you do have to do. But, and here's the thing that maybe it's kind of freeing, but it's also, I think for a lot of people, kind of scary. The reality is the things that you have to do aren't specific. They're general. And in reality, what every person has to do is figure out what works best for them in that specific area. And so I want to kind of, pull this out for a second, and I'm going to talk about different things. But at the end of the day, A business, whether it's an online business or any other kind of business, has three things it has to do. Just three. And so what I'm going to talk about is essentially these are, and I was having this discussion in one of my Facebook groups. I asked people about what are the rules, what are the things you've heard that you feel like they're rules that you have to do, but you're like, do I really have to do? And we had this interesting, really great conversation, and it was almost like getting into what we're talking about today, where one of the members was saying, yeah, but what are the rules? And I said, well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. And I talked about how there are some fundamental laws, if you will, and it's these three things. You have to have a way to get traffic. You have to have a way to turn that traffic into a lead. And then you have to have a way to convert leads into sales. That's it. Those are the only really fundamental rules. Now, there's different ways to do each one of those things. And I do want to step back, though, because there are two things that I would say are fundamental that you have to do before you start getting traffic, turning them into leads, and converting them. The first thing you do is you have to know what is your niche. Who do you serve? How do you help them? And don't say I help entrepreneurs get unstuck, because that is not a niche. You have to be very specific about who you help and how you help them. And the more niche you get on that, the better. Because when you can actually say, I serve online experts who are struggling to connect and nurture with their audience. If that's a niche, there you go. You're starting to get better. Right? And you dig deeper, and the deeper you get, and when you really get there, you have gold. So that's the first thing. And what I'll tell you is that's not really a law. It's just something that we've got to do. I mean, we can call it a law, but the point is this: if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So you have to figure out who are you talking to, who are you speaking to, who do you serve, and be specific about that. Then, and here's the thing that happens before the traffic's leads and conversions. You have to know and truly understand your people. And what I mean by that is you got to know them at a deep level. Where are they? What are they struggling with? Where do they want to go? You need to know things like what are their fears? What are their frustrations? What are their goals? What are their aspirations? All of those things factor into truly understanding your people, because here's the reality. You can't get traffic, you can't turn them into leads, and you can't convert them if you don't know that information. So you have to know your people better than they know themselves. Literally, when you get to the point that you can say things where they say, wow, you said that better than I could have said it about myself, that's when the magic happens. And everything we do in trying to get traffic and trying to get leads and trying to convert them comes down to that central thing of truly knowing your people, truly understanding them at a deep level. So that to me is an immutable law, right? You have to actually do that. You have to do that work. You can't skip it. If you skip that work, you're never going to succeed. So I will put that out there as a law that is a law of marketing that I will stand behind, and I challenge anyone to try to convince me that you can build a successful business without understanding the people you serve. And the reality is none of the gurus out there are going to argue that you don't need to do that. Like, I think everybody's going to do that. So from there, we go to what you need. And so what I'm going to say is you have to have a way to get traffic, to get eyeballs on your stuff. Now, here's the thing. Different people are teaching you different ways to do that. One of those ways, create a YouTube channel and basically get SEO. Another one, create a blog and get SEO content, like really, search engine optimizing. So when people are searching and doing it and they find you. Other people are talking about being on a podcast and, oh, by the way, going on other people's podcasts, speaking on other people's stages. Other people are talking about using social media and using hashtags and doing this and being found and engaging on social media. None of those is right and none of those is wrong. Those are all just different ways of getting traffic, of getting attention, of getting people to hear about you. And the reality is you can't do all of them. And you got to pick at least one if you really want to succeed. And by the way, I didn't even mention another way. You can just pay for it. You can just do Facebook ads. There are all kinds of ways to get traffic, to generate a buzz, to get people to hear about you. And what you have to do in building your business is find the way that works right for you. For me, for example, I just don't have the patience to create a YouTube channel. Because to do a YouTube channel right, and I've got some friends on my mastermind, the Brown brothers, Mike and Justin, and they have Primal Video, and they teach people how to do this. And I mean, again, what they would tell you is if you want to really use a YouTube channel to do this, I mean, there's a lot of work involved, like going onto Google or some other search engine and typing in search queries and trying these different things and seeing what people are asking and then creating videos based on that. Well, if you listen to me and you follow me, you probably know that Bobby's never going to do that. Bobby's never going to go to Google, find out and like try a bunch of different things, see what people are searching for, and then create content specifically to that. That's just not the way I operate. So it would never work for me. Similarly, like trying to write a long blog post every week to get SEO, again, not my jam, not the kind of thing I want to do. I write a lot, but that's not going to work for me. I chose a podcast as my form of content because I like to talk. Maybe you've noticed this about me. I was in debate in high school. I'm a lawyer. I was a trial lawyer. So yes, I like to talk. It's what I like to do. And so this is natural for me. And I love going on other people's podcasts. I love that as a visibility strategy because I love talking to people and I love talking about the things I'm passionate about. And so it is a perfect opportunity for me. So I chose that as my way of building my business because that's what works for me. But I also did a social media strategy that works for me. And this was a thing that we had a realization about in my business at some point, which was like the reason why Facebook is where I spend my time is because it is fit to me personally. Like I like building communities. I like being in groups, engaging with people, getting to know people, like having a kind of ongoing relationship. And to me, Facebook is a perfect way to do that. Now, Instagram, I know a lot of people who love it. My friend Tyler McCall, he's great at it. It's not something that has come naturally to me, but much less like Twitter. And I joke about Pinterest, which is not really social media, but pictures and words, okay, whatever that is, that's not me. And so I have developed my traffic strategy based on where my people are, but also what my personality is. And the freeing thing for you is you have that same freedom. The scary thing is you have that same responsibility. You have to figure out what works for you, for your business. But the immutable law here is that you have to have a way to get attention and get in front of the people who matter. And again, it might be as simple as referrals if you are a service-based business and you only need, say, 5 or 10 clients. But you've got to have a way to draw people in. And you've got to figure out what that is for you and build that into the business that you're building. And then once you figured out what it is for you, ignore everybody else. You don't need to feel like, okay, well, they said I need to have a YouTube channel, so I should do that. And I need to repurpose here, there, and yonder because that's what no, you don't. That's a rule that you can break anytime you want to. I'm going to tell you, I break that rule constantly, but most of the gurus do too. Most of the gurus, if you actually look at the people who are like, oftentimes like the 8-figure entrepreneurs and high 7-figure entrepreneurs, guess what? They are actually often on one social media platform mainly. And they have one form of content that they have picked for them. And for some of them, it's YouTube. For some of them, it's a blog. For some of them, it's a podcast. For some of them, it's doing long form Facebook Lives. And it's all fine. You pick what works for you. Just have a way to get traffic. Now, the next thing is you got to have a way to turn traffic into leads. This one, it's pretty simple. It really is you have to find a way to get people to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to be in your world. Now, I'm going to tell you, I believe the best way to do that is to get them on your email list because I believe that email is the best way to do it. But I'm not going to tell you that email is the only way to do it. I have friends in the space who are making a good living, who are, having success, and their focus is on getting people on social. And they do what I do basically via email, via social, because that's the way it works for them. Now, I think that's kind of crazy to do personally because I don't want to invest all that time and then have Facebook change the rules on me. But you don't have to do what I'm saying. You just have to have a way to get them into your world, to turn them into someone who doesn't just know who you are, but actually says, yes, talk to me directly. And the other thing is when they do that, they're also implicitly saying, it's okay for you to sell things to me. I want you to tell me when you have things for sale. That's what you're doing. And again, anybody who tells you that their way is the only way on this, ignore them. Because there is not one way to do it. Again, I will argue with you, and I would love to have a conversation with anyone who disagrees with me to tell you why I believe that email is the best way to do that. But there are going to be exceptions. For example, I don't know the demographic, but like if you serve like kids who are like 18 to 22, I kind of hear maybe they don't really read a lot of emails. And email may not be the best way to reach them. It may be that there's some other way. I'm open to that possibility. You have to know what works for you, for your audience, and your personality. And again, the only immutable law is you have to have a way to take the people who are kind of seeing you around and getting the traffic to wherever you are, and then get them to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to hear from you, and get into your world and do that. And by the way, if you know my fans framework that I talk about, find, attract, nurture, serve, this getting traffic and getting leads is really about the attract phase. It's about how do I attract them and then get them onto my list is the way I would teach it, but it doesn't have to be that. Again, you be you. Then the last piece is you got to have a way to take them from lead, from someone who said, okay, yeah, talk to me, into someone who buys. Because at the end of the day, we're in a business. We're not in a charity. There's nothing wrong with giving. I'm a radical giver. I give a ton. But I can only do that because I sell things. And you have to have a strategy too. And this is one of those places, again, I'm going to tell you, anyone who tells you their way is the only way is wrong. And the reality is there are a bunch of different ways. I personally believe that the best long-term strategy, personally in my view, and the easiest and the most well-tested, is to get them on your list and nurture them from there and then sell to them later. And I do that with email, and I do that with my weekly email. But what I'm going to tell you is there are plenty of people who are making a good living, bringing leads in cold and selling to them right away through a launch. That's another way to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way. And even when it comes time to do a launch, there's about 800 different ways you could do it. You could do a webinar. You could do a 3-part video series. You could do a challenge. You could do email only. You could do a lot of different things. And the reality is, and let's pull back the curtain. If you actually look at what you're doing in each one of those, you're doing the same darn thing. You're coaching the conversion. And you coach the conversion with the right messaging, which among other things gets them excited about the opportunity of what you have to sell, that gives them some ownership, a sense that they can do it, and then explains to them that, hey, if you really want to take this to the next level, you need to invest in this. If you look at a webinar structure, when they talk about going through like 3 pillars or something like that, oftentimes that's what they're going to walk you through. If you look at a 3-part video series, the first video is about the opportunity. The second one is take ownership. The third one is, hey, here's the other things you need to really get this going. If you do a challenge, you're going to have some messaging in advance. The challenge is about letting them take ownership, and then you explain to them what they need as their next steps. Again, look at what you're doing in all of those. What you're doing is teaching people a little bit, getting them excited, and showing them that if they really want to implement, you have what can help them do it. And there is not one way that is the only way. There is not one way that is the best way. Now, I think you could make arguments about why individual ones are the best way in a particular niche based upon where you are. I think you could make arguments about why, for example, the webinar is one of the best and most versatile approaches if you might want to have it evergreen at some point, if you have certain things going for you, etc. But again, like with my legal stuff, part of my problem, and I don't say my problem, but early on when I was selling it, I was using this traditional wisdom. Got to do a webinar. You got to do it. Without thinking about the fact that when I'm selling legal templates, most people don't want a freaking webinar. They don't want to learn. They just want me to give them the templates to solve their problem. And so my webinar was actually an impediment rather than something that helped me to sell. And that occurred to me like a year and a half ago. And I'm not proposing that that's the case for everybody. It is not. But it was for me. And part of the wisdom here is seeing those things, understanding those things, and understanding why you're doing the things you're doing, and then choosing what is right for you. But it doesn't mean that you just say, well, screw it. I don't like doing any of this stuff, so I'm just going to do what I want. You can't do that. You have to have some mechanism to convert people. And I'm just going to be honest with you. That mechanism has to be about showing people why they need to take action. Human beings do not want to take action. We want to sit on our asses and just magically take a pill and have everything be better. People will buy from you when the pain of not acting is greater than the pain of parting with the money that they will have to part with to buy from you. And that doesn't happen magically, and it doesn't happen overnight. Now, again, I have said that the way I have chosen to do this, really my conversion is all the emails I send to people every single week once they're on my list. I'm converting people every single week by building a relationship, and I've made this point many times. I do it because, candidly, I don't want to have to be perfect with my messaging and have my messaging truly dialed in during a launch, because I'm not a guy who stays on script. I just am not. It's never going to happen. If I had to really dial in messaging, and what I mean is like doing like a video sales letter is a very choreographed thing. That is like next to impossible for me. I mean, just to give you a sense, this is the sum total of my notes for this episode. Okay? That's it. And so that's the way I operate. So I prefer to build the relationship, to build the connection, so I can kind of bumble and stumble through a launch a little bit, and I don't bumble through it. But my point is, like, if I don't really do it perfect, it doesn't kill me. Because my people who I'm selling to have been in my world for a while. They know me. They're already warmed up and ready to buy. That's how I choose to do it. I choose to do it because I like that method. Now, what I will tell you is it is a long burn. There are people who would prefer to do an evergreen, get people in and right away and sell to them because they're fine with that. They're perfectly comfortable, and they candidly don't want to build the relationship over the long term. Now, I tend to think I could never do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But it doesn't mean that my way is the only way. My way is my way. Their way is their way. And you, listener, as an entrepreneur, again, I'm going to give you that freedom, but I'm also going to give you the responsibility. You don't have to follow anybody's rules when it comes to how you launch and how you sell. But you do have to have a mechanism that coaches the sale. And you can't simply say, I don't want to do it because I don't like doing it. Or I don't want to do it because when I'm a buyer, I don't need to do that. I hear that a lot too. Like, for example, me, I'm a spontaneous buyer. When I see something I want, I buy it. It drives my teams nuts because, like, I'll randomly buy something. Oh, yeah, I bought a new course. Or, oh, yeah, I bought a new program. Because when I see something I want, I just buy it. I don't have to be sold. Well, the problem is I know a lot of people who are like that, who are spontaneous buyers. And so they're like, so why do I have to build a big, long sales page or send all of these emails or do? I'm like, because all your buyers aren't like you. Some of them need those details. Some of them need you to walk through all of these things. Some of them need you to convert them with case studies. Some of them need you to change their beliefs and to kick them in the butt so that they actually get into action. And so you can't use the fact of saying, I don't want to do anything. I don't like doing that as an excuse. That is not a reason to break the rules. A reason to break the rules, at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is most of the things that people teach us as rules are not rules. Some of it's conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom isn't even like baked in forever. A lot of it is simply them teaching you what has worked for them. And so you are free to say, that's great, but that's not going to work for me, because as long as you're doing it in an intellectually honest way and not doing it because you're afraid, because you have imposter syndrome, or because you're playing small. Playing small, not okay. We don't break rules because we want to say, oh, I just don't want to do the work. We break the rules because we say, I'm not going to do it that way because it doesn't work for me. I'm going to do it this way instead. I mean, people will tell me, like, I talk about my email only launches that I did last year. And yes, after I got to the point that they were set, yes, they were, kind of like easy to do. But I'm going to tell you, writing those emails the first time was hard freaking work. I put in a ton of time. I put in a ton of effort, and I improved them, and I rinsed it and repeated it. And you can do that with a webinar. You can do that with a video series. You can do all of that once you get good at whatever it is you're doing. And so I'm simply telling you that at the end of the day, you got to find your niche. You got to understand your people. And then from there, you have complete freedom as long as you develop a way within your business to get traffic, turn them into leads, and convert them into buyers. And you don't have to listen to anybody. You can ignore me when I say I believe you should be putting out content every week, because I do believe that. I believe that for most people that is an important concept. But you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to me when I say I believe you need to send an email every single week. Now, if you want to use the method of online marketing that I use, you do need to do that, because that weekly email is a critical part of what I do and of what I teach. And what I've told so many people is that is like the keystone to what I teach. But maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you just want to go straight to doing an evergreen launch, and then if they don't buy, okay, they're gone. Now, again, I think that's a mistake. But you can do that. Or you could build your business around social media, around all different platforms. I just want you to understand that at the end of the day, this is your business, and you have to design a business that works for you. As long as you have something, you need to have a method for each piece in the puzzle. If you do that, there are no other rules. And so I'm not breaking rules because there are no rules. I'm simply choosing my own path. And that's what you need to do too. So that's the message for you. And again, this is kind of a weird, unconventional thing. And I kind of change what I'm teaching you because I'm basically saying there are no rules. You just need to find ways to do this. And that's my call to action for you. And I hope you will build a business that you love running as much as I love running my business. My team and I, one of the things that we have decided is that we want to find ways that work within the way we like to operate, to do all of these different things, to find things that work. And I hope that you can find that same level of satisfaction in what you do. So that's what I want for you this today and throughout your career. And again, like I said at the beginning, I would love to have you go through Massive Action May with me this month. It is my opportunity to go and dive deep, get alignment between kind of how you're bringing people in. And again, it's going to be through the rubric of bringing someone onto your email list. And that's what we're going to be doing, because that's what I believe in. Now, if you don't want to build an email list and really get leads, it's probably not going to be great for you. But if you believe that having people on your email list is important, this is going to be great. We're going to walk through getting alignment through freebie all the way through everything we do of like making the offer and kind of the counterintuitive way. And this is the great thing about James and why I love him as my coach. He has a way of doing it that's very different. And so we're going to walk through that, and I'm going to be adding extra coaching, extra teaching, walk through customer journey with you, with my view on really how to figure that out, how to map the customer journey. What do you need to do? What things do you need to be able to answer? All of those things we're going to dive into. We're going to dive into messaging, how to do changing beliefs, because that's a big part of messaging. Again, what you hear these gurus doing, they are changing beliefs. A lot of them aren't good at it. Some of them are really good at it, but we're going to teach you how to do it right. How to really kind of, bust the belief that people have Then we're going to walk through how to do live videos, because I think doing live videos is a great way for getting traffic. And then finally, we're going to walk through Facebook ads. So we're going to give you a lot of different training, a lot of different action. You can get all of that access. If you sign up for James's program, which is free, I'm going to give you access to the Fans First Society free for all of May, where we're going to do all of this. You can get all the details by going to bobbyklink.com/take action. bobbyklink.com/take action. And I look forward to seeing you inside the group. But no matter what, build the business that you want to build. Just make sure that you're not being lazy. As long as you have a reason for doing things, and as long as you're being honest about it, and as long as you have a way to actually get people from not knowing who you are to buying from you, you can do whatever the heck you want. So go out and build that business, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.